Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Grit and Grace Leadership Talks with myself, Kate Taylor. I'm very excited today because I have a new special guest for you all that I can't wait to share with you. His name is Jackson Godding. He has been running his own private practice for 3 years now called Fine Reason Therapy. And he's also had a background in the not-for-profit sector in social work and counselling for a 10-year period. So he went into that first and then got into his own business. And so I thought it'd be great for some of the followers here today to kind of hear his journey, how he's done it, and where he is today, and any advice he might have for you all. So welcome, Jackson.
Hey, good to see you, Kate. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on board with us. It's so exciting after following your journey for quite some time now to be able to get you on. I think when we first met, it was me being a guest on your podcast, as we were just saying, probably 3 years ago now. As an RUK ambassador, I came on and did a chat with you. And since then, we've stayed connected because we're both in the similar sector. And now you're on my podcast. So that's very exciting. So thank you for coming on today.
I know, it's so good. We finally did the reverse, so that's been nice, and it's been so good that we've been able to stay connected all this time. That's what it's all about.
I know, and it's been so good to see you open your private practice in Crow's Nest recently. Had your big launch, and I was able to come and be part of that. And you've been also a key member in our SWCP community, moderating and kind of doing lives and helping out where we can. So giving back to that group. So I really appreciate that. And it's been great to see how we've all been able to connect and collaborate over different things over the years. So, yeah, it's awesome. And I guess for the people listening, I've got a few questions for you. So bear with me as we go through them today. But I'd love to know what you do to set up your day for success now that you're an entrepreneur as well as someone in the sector who's worked in that counselling space. What do you do to set yourself up for a winning day?
Whoa, it's a good question. I really like that. I mean, it varies, right? I guess I work pretty well on structure and routine. I think that needs to kind of be me during the week. And I think to start my day, I try and, I mean, during the week, during the school week, I generally I'll go to the gym or I'll go to yoga, and then I'll either do a meditation before or after. And what I've been doing a lot more of, which is crazy, is at the end of my shower, I'm doing some cold showers. So that's 30 seconds, is all I'm doing, which some people that's nothing, other people that's insane. So that gets me going, right? That's what really pumps me up. And then, I guess I've really started with filling my cup up rather than, clagging in bed and doing things. So I really take hold of that, and the weekend not as intense, but Sunday to Friday, that's me.
Wow. And I see that on your social media recently that you've been doing a lot of those ice baths as well, where you go somewhere and sit in a cold ice bath at a certain temperature. I don't know how cold it is. But I always admire people that do it, but I've never done it myself. So can you tell us what you found of the benefits of doing that, and how often do you do it as well to get the benefits you find?
Well, I mean, I'm a bit of a Suki Lala when it comes to the cold. And again, when I talk about my breath work and meditation, also I've been teaching how to do meditation for so long that I wasn't able to quite nail it myself. So both of those things, what they have in common is, well, for me anyway, which I think a lot of people kind of resonate with, is it's sitting in stillness and sitting in discomfort with yourself. And that's probably why I didn't do it, which is exactly why I was like, I need to do more of this. So that's what finally got me into, my life is filled with effort, and there wasn't much effortlessness in my life. So that was where the meditation comes in. The ice bath is a similar kind of vibe to that, except what we're doing is putting ourselves into intense shock, right? So we're kind of activating that fight, flight, freeze response. And then being able to kind of activate this ability to slow your nervous system down and increase your kind of exhales that bring you back into or out of a shock response, then you're actually learning how to regulate your nervous system. So there's lots of different benefits, but for me, that's the biggest one is, the hardest thing that I'm going to face in a day is a little bit of cold and a little bit of sitting by myself. So it really prepares me for being able to take on stress in a much more practical way. And when things kind of come online for me, I'm just not as phased as I would have been without it. And you know, that's reducing my stress, it reduces my anxiety, it's helping with my sleep, helps my metabolism, helps my immunity, and just helps me be able to kind of feel more content and connected within myself, plus the intense dopamine and serotonin hit that you get, which really lasts a few hours, which feels really, really good.
So you get like a buzz of energy after, do you find?
Probably if you're doing an ice bath, not in the same way in the cold shower. You jump into an ice bath for a couple of minutes and breathe through it to a point where it's not the whole time isn't shock. Yes. And you're gonna jump out and you're gonna feel amazing. Like it's a good massive high for free high, you know, that kind of feels pretty good for a good, I mean, I felt good all day and the next, but some people are saying about 2-3 hours of just that post, you know, dopamine.
So then would you recommend doing it more early rather than later in the day? Like it wouldn't be good to do it before bed, right? Because then you'd be like buzzing and you're meant to be winding down. Do you find?
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, that there's a lot that comes into it. You know, there's no real right or wrong way. It's really your preference and what works.
See what your body does and how.
Yeah, I mean, generally, if we look at it in terms of sleep, like we want to be getting cold in the morning so that our body naturally heats up, which is what's waking us up. And it's the opposite for when we want to go to sleep. So if you're having a hot shower or tea before bed, it's going to help you then cool down, which you need to be able to do to be able to sleep. So having a cold shower just before bed, you need to warm up to then, you know, cool back down to then sleep. It's just going to take a little bit longer.
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah, I definitely find that hot shower, or I've recently bought myself one of those, I know it sounds like old school, but electric throw rugs for the couch when I'm watching telly and relaxing, and put that on. Oh my gosh, I just melt, my whole body just melts and relaxes. And it puts me in a stage of just like that kind of sleepiness, ready to kind of jump into bed kind of feel. So I get, the warm side, but the cold side, I don't know. I'm going to have to like try this out and see what I think and what it does to me at some point.
The good thing is it's, you know, I'm going to start running them down in Balmoral Beach, I think, and just kind of create a little community. So
okay, I could come with you.
Doing some breathing and then some ice baths. Honestly, by the very least, you're going to have a group of people that are trying to help you, support you, and feel more connected and bring in more community to be able to work through whatever you want to do, right? You do 3 seconds versus 2 minutes. Doesn't matter. You came down to do something that took you out of your comfort zone and started to kind of, you know, optimize a bit more of how you feel and what you're choosing to do for you. That's the real benefit that I think.
I love that.
Bringing people together.
You'll have to tell us about that. I'll come and check it out.
Yeah. Watch the space.
And can you tell me a bit about your career path? Like, obviously, a lot of people follow along and see your business, see what you do, but they don't know how you got there and they don't know how it all started. And people forget that, you know, we all came from working at the bottom and working our way up and then going out on our own. And it's quite a process we go through over 10, 12 years. It's not just something we do, you know, flippantly. So could you tell us a little bit about your career journey to this point and how you got to your business?
Yeah, cool. I mean, I'll do the summarized version because I could probably talk a really long time about it all. But I mean, back to right down to the beginning, I think that what I wanted to kind of work in was suicide prevention after losing a friend that really shocked the whole community. And that kind of like led to being like, how do I do this? What do I need to kind of get into? And then I thought that was the worst that it can kind of get, is you taking your own life, no matter what you're going through, that's the kind of right at the brink. So I really wanted to sort of be able to support more and more of that. So I started actually working in Lifeline in the suicide prevention hotline for a while, and that really kind of allowed me to do more and more of that. But as I started getting more and more roles, I really connected to what's going on underneath all the stuff that's going on. And that being that trauma and, you know, your childhood experiences or some of that really difficult adversity that might have happened in the past that's then shaping our experiences. So that kind of moved me more into like the worst it can get is actually not suicide is living with how intense some of that stuff can be and not working through some of it and watching it kind of destroy your life. That I realized that kind of hit this tone. Now, in Australia, we don't really have trauma-based centers. Unfortunately, probably only, a few handful that are really specializing in trauma specifically. So the way I kind of built my career was around following trauma, I guess, as closely linked as possible. So I kind of situated myself where I was living, which meant that I could be put anywhere in Sydney. So I've worked in Kelco, I've worked in Parramatta, I've worked out east, I've worked in Penrith, I've worked in Redfern, just pretty much all over, being like, where does the work go? And was very happy to do that as I built. So the closest things to trauma are probably addiction. And, generally what's going on underneath the surface of someone's addiction is what they're trying to escape from. What is the painful experience that's making them want to go and do that? So that landed me in what's called South Pacific Private, which is a trauma treatment center that really specializes in going underneath and looking at the depths of it all. The more that they talked, the more that they were talking about these things that happened when they were a kid. And they're talking about things that happened when they were a kid for the first time. And I go, what the hell is happening to these kids? Who's supporting these kids? So that led me to pretty much dance between either working in addiction centers or working with really, really high risk, vulnerable young people. So I kind of danced between the two. I went addiction, and then I worked for the department, and then I went back to addiction, and then I went back to working in the non-for-profit with homeless kids. And then just kind of all over the place. So that kind of built all of my speciality around really realizing that, yes, everything kind of comes back to like trauma and being able to really understand that and, the disconnection, and really bringing connection back in to help find them in a way that they feel better within themselves. And that's kind of where I realized it's all just about self-worth and how we show up in relationships, which then led me to, I don't want to work 55 minutes away anymore. I was very willing to just travel for wherever the work was and just build my experience. And I did jump a lot to get all of it. I did a lot of jobs in a short amount of time, which is not that loyal, but I guess my purpose was to kind of really get everything I could get from lots of different
a range of experience. Yeah, makes sense.
Which then kind of was like, I want to live and work way closer, because I think after doing that for a long time, and we've talked about it, and there's definitely some key people in our community that talk a lot about burnout. And I think that for me was like, I don't want to live to work. I kind of work to live. And that flipped the script of, I've done my hard yards, I'm ready to do me and then work around what I'm doing for me. So finally that led to like really kind of finding much closer places to work, and then eventually doing me, which I was doing a lot online, and then finally jumping into my own clinic after doing a few days here and there at other people's clinics. Took a leap of faith and went and got the clinical started, as you mentioned, and now it's 10 minutes from where I work. And I, set up every year and I go, what do I want for me in my life? What is the most important thing that I don't want to have to sacrifice anymore? And then I build my life and my work around those things.
Wow, that's really amazing, because I'm on a journey of that at the moment, reevaluating like, how do I make life work better and work better, even though running a business, it's hard because you feel like you're always on, and like everyone always needs you. But it's like building into like, what do I need for me to thrive and to help others around me? And I'm on that journey at the moment, evaluating, and I'm bringing some new team to my business to try and give me that time and space that I need to focus on family stuff. So it's something that I was like, you know what, I'm getting older and I need to prioritize this a bit better. And so I've been on quite a journey with that recently. And I actually went to an event with Gary V speaking last week at the ICC, and it was about mindset matters. And the big feeling I got across the board around that was around it wasn't about hustle culture and working harder and trying harder, but they actually came to a place of like, you know what, we've all survived and worked as leaders or business owners through a pandemic. We've all burnt out, all run down. So actually looking at how do we do less better, and how do we gain more wisdom and kind of pause more in our life and work so that we can make better decisions. And it was talking a lot about, wisdom goes at a different pace to what our busy lives are. So if we want to gain wisdom and kind of gain perspective, we need to slow down to do that, and looking after ourselves better is a way to do that. And so finding what works for you and being more purposeful in our rest, like you were saying, like being really conscious and present in it. And that's something I need to learn to do, because I don't think we've all been conditioned to just work and hustle and try harder, but we've not really been conditioned in society to slow down and rest and value that, and actually looking at how that will set us up long term as business owners and leaders in the world. And so, yeah, that's been a real something I'm processing at the moment of like, what does rest look like for me, and what do I like, and what, like finding different things to help ground me better and look after myself better. So, yeah, I love that you've been on that journey too. That's so cool. And tell me about your Fine Reason therapy in Crow's Nest. Tell me about the different services you run there, and what team you have at the moment, and kind of all the things you're doing. Like you said, you mentioned you're doing some group work stuff as well. So yeah, share with everyone who's listening what you get up to.
Look, there's a couple of different, I guess, pillars of what we're kind of offering at the moment. So obviously I'm a clinical psychotherapist and counselor, and we work with people that kind of, I guess, really just want to get better in themselves. That's a massive spectrum, and that obviously covers a lot of that trauma lens of what's going on to sort of prevent or block some of that stuff, and then how we're showing up in relationships. So we work in like individual counseling and couples counseling, as well as group, to be able to kind of come back to that self-worth and really build that. So that's me. And another one of my team members, Oksana, who's another beautiful therapist. And just a few people kind of, we're building more and more around that to be able to kind of grow it into being able to provide, so everyone can kind of have a bit more choice in who they want to see. They might not all want to see me. They might want to see Oksana. They might want to see.
Yeah, true. Different styles.
Through. But all kind of working under that Fine Reason therapy lens, which is the building. Then I've got the, I run a podcast, as you know, you've been on, and just like how I work in sort of providing, I guess, information and education and a bit of fun on my Instagram, and really building up that online space is just a lot of fun. So that's probably more the Jackson Godding vibe rather than Fine Reason specifically. And then the last of things is what we're building more and more around is our like coursework. So our, a bit cheaper, a bit more self-paced, and really immersive, practical stuff that is all around like finding your worth and being able to kind of get better in, how you're showing up in relationships. So there's that's building more and more in that space as well. So we're kind of doing little bits of everything. And then obviously I'm really just trying to build community and connections. So I'm starting to run more ice baths. We're going to start doing a few more workshops. We just ran a really beautiful women's inner child workshop, which was
I'd love that.
That was really successful, and a lot of people got a lot of benefit from that. So we're going to do a men's one soon, and I think we've got some art therapy groups and workshops coming up soon. So we just get to provide what we can and listen to what you need, and then just hold space for whatever people are interested in, and hold it in a really self-love kind of concept.
I love that. And it's so needed, I think, like we were saying, everyone's needing that a bit extra self-love at the moment. And I feel like, it's about coming out of that flight or flight survival mode into like what this new normal is and what our lives look like. And also reevaluating, like, because obviously some people are going back into the office more now than they were before, things like that. And it's like, what do I want my new normal to look like? Because before we'd all go in 5 days a week and not question it. And now it's like, oh, actually, could we do this job, part-time from home, part-time in the office? Like, is it necessary that we all need to be together 5 days a week? Like, could there be more flexibility there for family and life and things? And it's been really great exploring that with my own team as well. Seeing what works and what doesn't for different people, and people with kids. It's definitely, I found it an advantage to be able to have that flexibility to do school pickup and things like that. So it's a new normal, I guess, and working that work-life integration versus just the 9 to 5 mindset, working around your family and your life. So I love that. And could you is there any advice if someone is, say, working in not-for-profit sector like yourself, worked their way around, worked in a few different companies, and they've got an idea or a way that they would love, whether it be to get that balance in their life and kind of live to work to live to work, be able to have that balance, better, whether it's in private practice or whether it's, having, working, contracting to certain businesses for different projects instead. Is there any advice you'd give to someone that's looking to go out and do their own thing versus working for an employer? What would you say would help them?
Well, I'm definitely biased. I guess that's sort of, you said it really well. You used the word balance, and I think that is key for me. I think hustle culture is getting a bad rap at the moment, and I totally understand why. But if it wasn't for the hustle, I wouldn't be where I am. And if it wasn't for working really, really, really hard, my business wouldn't be where it is today, because of I just had to do what I had to do to get where I needed to be to fucking pay the rent, right? So I think that really helped me.
That makes sense, doesn't it? Paying bills, paying stuff.
Exactly. We got shit to do, right? So I think for me that as a therapist and as someone who's a massive advocate for self-care, I already came in with such a strong ethic around how I look after myself. So I think the word balance really helps me make my decisions and helps me, I guess, help and influence others is we need to be able to work hard and have a mindset that allows us to do that. And really kind of, especially big ventures and ideas and jumping into those concepts is we need to give it our all, but figuring out what our all looks like to where we start to fall over, where we, kind of can't put in that too much more without starting to it be counterproductive. So really kind of creating that ability for ourselves to look after ourselves and kind of setting that up as your advantage and having that self-leadership that allows you then, when I do this for me, I can work in this way. But if I don't do this for me, I can't. So the grit and hustle, I think, really does come into it, but it's having the compassion and grace that keep coming back to you to be able to kind of to make those sort of ventures. I am so passionate about the balance of things and being able to really put yourself first, because putting yourself first means not just kind of saying no and being able to kind of put things in place for you to finally kind of use your voice to look after yourself. It also means putting yourself first and actually getting out there, getting after it, and being able to kind of finally, feel the fear and then embrace it anyway, sort of thing.
Yeah.
That takes a real good balance. So, I mean, my advice is that, and then reach out. I love mentoring and supervising people into that space, because it's not easy. And I guess my approach is we learn through connection and togetherness. So, don't reinvent the wheel.
Exactly. See what works and learn from different people like yourself in the sector who are doing it well and getting that insight to make it work for you. And I guess that's where the whole theme of this podcast came from, was that grit and grace leadership talks, and looking at how a lot of entrepreneurs and leaders, the reason we are successful is because we have that grit, that determination, that bravery, that courage. But then at the same time, a lot of us struggle with the grace. So, how do we have that grace approach of kindness and empathy and compassion to ourselves and to our staff and our clients, and to make sure that, they're getting the support and we're getting the support we need. So, like you said, it's that balance that we're all juggling. But yeah, I think you definitely display that in the way you do your business and the way you do life as well. And yeah, it's been it's so good to talk with you about all these different ideas. And obviously, you're hearing a lot of people and their trauma and their past and their stories, right? So how do you manage your own well-being and mental health? Like, I know we talked about ice baths and things, but what practical things do you do weekly or daily to like kind of ground you after you've had a big day with clients with all their trauma coming out? Like what do you do? Because you're taking in so much information. How do you have good self-care in place to look after yourself? What mental health tips would you recommend that you do?
Look, the model that I work in and have created is that the self-worth therapy. So two pillars of that are self-accountability, which is essentially the self-leadership, and then self-care. So both of those things are so needed to be able to create what we need to be able to kind of show up every day. So the way I talk a lot about it with a lot of clients and just kind of breaking it down really simply for everyone is figuring out what is non-negotiable in your week or in your day that has to happen. And the reason it makes the list, generally like a list of 6. So ideally we're kind of looking for something happens every day that puts, stuff back up in the cup to fill me back up. Is what makes it non-negotiable is you notice when it's not there. So you're able to kind of get this idea that, getting a massage once a week might be really, really vital, but it's a luxury that you can start to see, like, I don't need this every week. That's not for everyone, but
no,
for others it might be, I need a massage every week. But I guess that's not non-negotiable. What's non-negotiable is what going to work for you, that you go, wow, I can tell that my way of showing up is less because I haven't done X, Y, and Z. So generally, without kind of telling you all of mine, it's generally like a theme of something for me that slows me down, something that involves connection, something that is fun, something that's good for my physical health, something that's good for my mental health, and then some sort of, mix of all of them, whether it be like a hobby or something that you have an interest in. And some of that's really structured and regimental. Like for me, I know when I'm going to the gym. I know when I'm going to yoga.
You have it scheduled.
Yeah, because that keeps me accountable. It keeps me being able to sort of come back to me. So yeah, non-negotiable self-care and creating that list that you can be tangible with. And, it's an editable document, obviously, but locking that down as best as you can and being able to go, these are the things that I have to do. And when I don't, I notice I start to not show up in the way that I'm really want to, and that hinders my performance and my feelings about me.
I love that. I started someone gave me the idea recently of doing like, what's your ideal week look like, whether it's work, personal, everything, business, like how do you fit everything in? And because they're like, how do you know if you've achieved your ideal week if you haven't mapped it out? Like if you never actually, you can say, oh, I like doing exercise, or I like meeting people, or I like doing things, but what is your ideal week, and how could you logistically fit all the stuff into the hours you have, right? So you fill your cup in all those areas. And so I mapped it out, and I was like, wow, this could actually work, because I started studying recently 2 nights a week, and I was like, how am I going to fit in study as well as my self-care stuff, as well as running the business, as well as being a mum? I was like, I don't know how, like I was feeling really overwhelmed, but it wasn't until I mapped it out in a week on a schedule and seeing how I could fit it all in, I was like, I can do this. And every week may not turn out that way, but on an ideal week, that is what I would like to have achieved. And so that gives me something to work towards and work with, and kind of keep me on track. If I'm feeling like I'm having an off week and things aren't going so well, I can look back and go, okay, what is in my ideal week that's missing this week, and what could I put in, and what do I need to subtract? So something I've been aware of is like, if you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So you can't just keep loading more and more in. You have to look at what you can take away as well, so that you can create that balance, right? So, it's a challenge.
It is, and every day's different, right? So we've got to kind of be able to really look at the grace part of it as well. I guess it's like, we don't always have the the same week every week, and we're also not feeling the same way every week. So it's like, what does the reduced non-negotiable things look like, where it's kind of like, if you're sick or you've got your period or you super run down or you're having like a depressive week or episode, then what does the
trigger
of that look like for you, so that there can still be some accountability around what I'm doing for me, essentially?
Exactly. And I think actually having someone in your world, whether it's a mentor or a friend or someone else in business that can give, or staff that can give you that feedback too, because sometimes we don't see in ourselves what others are seeing around us. So actually, I'm aware when I have friends or family or a staff member that will say, you know what, Kate, you're going through a lot right now, maybe book in a session with your psychologist. And I'm like,
True.
Yeah, maybe I am not coping. And actually, I really listen to that, because usually they're right. And after a session, I can ground myself again and kind of keep going. But I think, being aware of that and being open to that, have one or two people in your world that can be honest with you is really important, I think. Definitely important. So in terms of quotes, I love a good quote. And so I'd love to know if you have a favorite one that showcases that grit and grace in life and leadership. Is there a favorite quote you have?
Look, I'm always going to tie it back to trauma and the work that I do. And I do think that they do cross over in self-worth and how we show up. I think that they definitely are nice overlaps. And I'm also going to be cheeky and go for two.
Okay. Give me one.
Well, there you go. First two coming in hot. The first one is you can't change where you come from, but you can change where you go from here.
Oh, so I love that.
A really powerful one that I hold myself to a lot and talk a lot about with my clients. And I think it does, really speak to the leadership that we can have within ourselves, to not focus too much on what's already happened and how we step forward. And then the other one is probably much more of the grit, is you are what you do, not what you say you'll do.
Ooh. It's like leading by example kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, it comes back to that accountability piece, where it's like that, how I want to live is someone that follows through. And when I don't, I let myself down, or let others down, and being able to kind of come back to like, this is part of my value system. So I want to do what I'm offering, and I want to stay authentic.
That's so true. And having a child for me has been a big eye opener for that, because they see what you say and do. They see your behavior, not always what you say. And so it's the worst when they start copying things you say.
Totally.
And good and bad. And you're like, oh my God, I sound like, she totally sounds like me right now. And it's so funny. But it's a good reflection sometimes, having a child. It's like a mirror. They can show you what good and bad things you do and habits you say. And, they're living like they're watching and learning and observing. So
100%. They're little sponges.
They are.
Spit it out, and it's a very good mirror, a very good reflection of. It naturally brings up our shit, right? And that can be a really good way of. It's the gift, really, because we can keep reflecting and working on ourselves when we really listen to what our kids are doing and saying. Yeah,
exactly. And we're their biggest role models, right? The people that will shape them and mold them, and 100%. Hopefully, give them. I mean, it's hard. I think a lot of people have trauma from their childhoods or something that's happened, but if we can try and prevent it where we can, then we do our best, right, as parents.
Break that cycle somehow.
Exactly. And I think one thing I've realized since becoming a parent is that, when I look back at my childhood with things that went wrong and right, is that thing of like, my parents did the best they knew to do in that moment, in that situation. And no parent ever sets out to generally to harm their children or to cause trauma, but actually in the situation, they did the best they could do, even if it still caused some harm to us. There's I now as a parent see that, I'm like, oh, far out. We all think it's like that whole, if we had a crystal ball and we could see what the future held, we'd probably make different decisions. But we don't have that hindsight when we have to make tough decisions in life. And, you know, our parents generally are trying to their best. And I know I'm trying my best for my daughter, but I'll probably still mess it up. And it's about, you know, just being able to, that understanding, which I didn't have before I had my daughter. I think now I have that compassion for my parents. Because I now know what being an adult is like. And my daughter often says, I can't wait to be a grown up and not have to go to school. And I'm like, oh, please enjoy it while you can. Your life is so much easier right now.
Take me back to school for sure.
I know, where your parents do everything for you and take you to all your sports activities and look after you and feed you. And totally different. But it's so funny when you're a kid, you look up to those adults in your world and you're like, I want to be like you. Like she wants to run Taylor Care one day and, you know, be a mini, they call her mini boss in the office, because when in school holidays, she comes in and, you know, and checks on the staff and has chats with them. And it's actually really interesting seeing how wise she is for her age at 7. She'll hear me and my husband talking about different situations at work and she'll be like, oh, why don't you do this, Mum? Or maybe they mean this. And you're like, how did you know this? Like, you're 7 and it's like she's spot on. Like, she has a point of view that's so just matter of fact, you know, it's not they just come out with stuff that's so much wisdom, even for a little person. You're like, that's a really good point. And that's the thing, they sometimes see things from a different perspective to us, and because we're in the busyness of it all, we don't get to see objectively, whereas they'll just look in a situation and be very black and white, like, I think this is what it means, or I think they're saying this to you because of this, Mummy. And I'm just like, wow, you're amazing. So she's my biggest inspiration, I think, in life, and how she is just like a sponge, like you said, and always trying to learn and be better. And, you know, she's very much into her gymnastics at the moment and dreaming about being in the Olympics one day. So we're encouraging her, if she's got that gift, to go for it. And it's really great to see her grit and determination at such a young age, because she sees me doing that too, and having that role model of like someone that gets up and gets going. And some days when she's like, I don't want to go to school, and I'm like, you know what, some days I don't want to go to work, but actually we still have to go and do these things. And she's like, oh, okay, you know, like she's accepting that that's like, you know, we all have to do things we don't like to do, but you know, we have to go face it anyway. And it's great having a little mini me to learn from and guide and raise. So parenthood, huh? But thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed our chat and love those quotes, and really appreciate hearing about your journey, and I'm sure other people will too. And if they would like to get in touch with you, what is the best way to connect with you?
I mean, I try and post pretty regularly on our little community page, so I definitely do that. And then just Find Reason Therapy on Instagram is probably a good go-to, or just findreasontherapy.com.au for my website. And if you're in the Neutral Bay, Cremorne area, then there'll be more and more little community opportunities, where you can come from all over to come and find us. But that's generally the gist of how to find me.
Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it, and definitely will get people, I'm sure, will reach out to you after hearing this podcast. So thank you.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks so much for having me. I can't wait to do all this again. It sounds so good.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Telling me to dance, taking a chance. Telling me to dance, taking a chance.
Thank you so much for listening in and watching our latest episode of Grit and Grace Talks with Jackson Godding. Please like or love or share this post or podcast if this is something that resonates with you. I really appreciate all the feedback and love from you all. So thank you so much, and have a brilliant day. All right, bye.